So in the first class, we have learned about the basic concepts of object-oriented programming. That is, what is the procedural programming and what is an object-oriented programming, or you can say the modular programming, and what is an OOPS, that is an object-oriented programming. What are the objects that we have learned in the first class? Now moving ahead, now in this we'll learn about what are the classes. As I explained earlier, classes is nothing but a group of objects which has some common characteristics and behavior. Here you can see there is a class has a various objects of similar type, and when they become more in number, we say it is a class. And when we identify a particular, or say the item rather I say, then it becomes an object. Now another very important term with an object is an instance of class. Instance means from a group of objects we have selected one object, that is called as an instance. So object is also called as an instance of class. Now every object in a class has a property, has some property. So the class also has some properties, and the method means the functions which are going to operate on that class. Now we'll study what is the difference between a class and an object. So class is a data type, whereas an object is an instance of class, right? Or we can say from the class we can generate many objects. That is, class is also called as an object factory, as we can generate from the various objects. Now object, it gives life to class, because until there are so many objects, there is no class. Next is, class does not occupy memory, as it is just a concept. It does not occupy any memory location, whereas object occupies memory location. It cannot be manipulated because it is not available in memory, because now as it is a concept, so it cannot be manipulated, whereas an object can be manipulated, right? Now another very important concept which you have to understand is, now the object interact with each other through the concept of message passing. Pass the message. You might have seen in your daily life that your parent is accessing the ATM through their ATM card. Now when anybody operates the ATM through the card is here an object. That object interact with another object, the bank, and they identify each other, and then we issue a command through that ATM, and that command is passed on to the bank server, right? So that is how, and through the message passing they interact. Now there are four most important, you can say, the pillars of the object oriented programming, that is OOPS: abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. I'll explain one by one each of them. Abstraction is the mechanism to show only the relevant data to the user. That is, the client cares about what functionality a car offers, not about how that functionality is implemented. Right? So, the abstraction or the data abstraction refers to the act of representing the essential feature without including the background details or the explanation. Now, there are many things we use in our house also. Take an example of a television. That is, we know how to make use of the television, but we are not aware of, or not interested rather I say, the things what is happening inside that thin box, right? So that is a concept of abstraction. We are only interested in essential feature to know that how we can make use of that device, right? So that is called as abstraction. Encapsulation allows the programmer to group the data and the methods that operate on them together in one place and to hide the details from the user. As in my earlier example of abstraction, in a television or in a TV, they have designed one electronic, say a kind of PCB on which they have assembled certain components, and these components they have covered with a black kind of a plastic kit, and also they have provided the mechanism, that is a kind of a remote through which we can operate on those. We can give the instruction to the TV, that is how it has to be operated. So that is again an example of encapsulation. So that is, encapsulation is the wrapping of the data and the operational functions into a single unit, and that unit is called as class, is known as encapsulation. Encapsulation protects the integrity of an object, implementation of abstraction that we are talking in terms of encapsulation programming in a very common device, that is a mobile phone. The components in the case of the TV, here the features which are there available on unwanted access by the client can operate. Our mobile is a part of abstraction. The TV manufacturer company don't want that everybody should have an access to those components. So they have protected inside this plastic box. Inside this whole device forbids a client to change an account balance, that is encapsulation. Very well understood the concept, what is encapsulation and abstraction. Now the word inheritance. Now we all familiar with this word inheritance. We acquire certain properties or say the features from our parents. That is again a inheritance. Now what is an inheritance here? It is an ability of a new class to be created from an existing class by extending it. That is, here you can say the inheritance is the capability of one class of things to inherit the capabilities or the properties from another class. That is, there is a student class, and the student can be of a college or can be of a school. So these again can be the two classes of the student. Now again, the college student can be a BSc or a diploma, or in a school it can be a primary student or a secondary or higher secondary student. So now these again, now the class, that is, you can say a base class is a super class from which another class inherits properties. Inheriting class, the class which is get inherited, is called as the base class or the derived class, right? So here in this example, the student is on the top, so it's the parent class, we can say a base class. Now the two classes get inherited from it, so that is the college and the school. So these are the two, you can say, the derived class or the base class, sorry, the subclass. And the college has another, say, the two class, that is the BSc and the diploma. They are again, you can say, the subclass of the superclass or the base class college, and the same way for the school also. The last is polymorphism. Now, polymorphism is the ability of an object to take to many forms. The most common use of polymorphism is in OOPS occurs when a parent class reference is used to refer to a child class object. Any Java object that can pass more than one is a test is considered to be polymorphic. Now here in the figure you can see I've just drawn a shape. So the shape, say, it can be a circle, it can be a triangle, or it can be a square, or it can be a rectangle, or it may be any polygon. So then, depending upon the shape, we have the different shapes. So I have used the word shape only. So that is what is an example of, we can say, a polymorphism. So this is all about the concepts of object oriented programming.